Brief Encounter is one of the greatest romantic movies ever made, directed by the iconic David Lean. Today we're going to cover it and how it made us feel very sad. All this and more on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Yes, who said that we can't cover a bleak, depressing as hell romantic movie? This Romance at the Movies. And when I say we, of course, I'm referring to both myself and, of course, my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you pre and post Brief Encounter?
Yeah, pre-Brief Encounter, I was going about my day quite happily, and in post-Brief Encounter, I was absolutely knocked for six. This is a devastating film that it took me quite a while to kind of pick myself up off the floor from. It kind of felt a little bit like Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise in quite a few ways. So I'm sure.
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
I'm sure that was like a kind of, well, I know like Before Sunrise was also based on something that actually happened in Richard Linklater's life, but I'm sure this was also like a reference point for him in certain ways as well. So, but like, yeah, I think they definitely share kind of DNA. But yeah, it's a devastating film, absolutely stunningly made though.
Yeah, I kind of purposefully didn't tell you just how much of a gut punch this movie is, because it was your first time watching it. I've seen it before. I can confirm on a rewatch, it still feels emotionally like going 12 rounds of Prime Mike Tyson. But yeah, it's from David Lean, who, funnily enough, is more known for like grand 3-hour globe-trotting epics like Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, Dr. Zhivago. So for him to make such a local and even just a brief, literally, it is a brief encounter, it's less than an hour and a half. For him to make a movie like this just shows the guy's range, obviously, because this is, for me, one of the greatest romantic movies ever made, and probably, particularly with literally the final line from Fred, one of the most emotionally complex romantic movies ever made. Not necessarily that the movie itself is complex. The movie itself is actually fairly basic, fairly bare bones. It's just people living their lives, but how it makes the audience feel is so perfectly crafted, and part of that is the non-linear style of editing, where we start off at one point in time, then we go back in time and forward and back and blah blah blah, and yeah, all of that, it just culminates in such a unique viewing experience. And Brief Encounter, yeah, what can I say? First time covering David Lean, and we are off with an absolute banger with a Brief Encounter, a beautiful movie. Spoiler free. Shane, how did you feel about Brief Encounter?
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away by this film. Devastated. It is an incredible kind of, it's just an absolute gut punch. I mean, like I said, it did genuinely take me a while to recover from kind of all the emotions and all the feels that this film gives you. I thought it was very interesting how it, like, there is two lead characters, but we never see Alec's actual home life. We only see Laura's home life. So that's very interesting. Like, I think it definitely wants us to sympathize with both characters, but certainly Laura commands the attention and the kind of, she's the person who's meant to kind of evoke your sympathy throughout the film, and yeah, she absolutely does that. I think the actress does an incredible job. As does is it Trevor Howard, who we have covered on the podcast before with
Trevor Howard is Alec.
With the third man, but I think both leads do an incredible job. Like, it's, in any romantic film, you need two leads who you can really buy into the chemistry, but also they can really hold up each of their own kind of what they're being asked to do, and they both really do it. So devastating film.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing film as well. Just with this episode, we will cover at the end of the episode what we've watched this week, and if you can all leave a like on the video, that would be amazing. Everyone comment what you've thought of the recent movies that we've been covering, And as well, if you want to know what we're covering next week, stick around till the end of the episode. But yeah, as you said, Trevor Howard is fantastic. Celia Johnson is fantastic. And I reckon we get on into it. What you think? Unless you have anything else.
No, let's do it.
So we see a train coming into a station, and the conductor times it on his watch. Seems fairly pleased. Goes into the tea room, and the tea room is run by a woman named Miss Baggett. He attempts to flirt with her, and it fails miserably. And meanwhile, we see another woman gate crashing a couple who we don't know yet on a date. It's worth noting as well because this movie is an inherently depressing movie, that the relationship, quote unquote, between the tea lady and the conductor is often the moments of levity in the film. But that being said, the moments of levity in this film are few and far between. Yes, this woman, Dolly, isn't her name?
Dolly, yeah.
Yeah, Dolly comes over. She sees her friend Laura, who looks somewhat forlorn. She interrupts her conversation and sends whoever this fella is that Laura's with to go get her tea, because she's admittedly too lazy to go up and get it herself. She just starts rambling to Laura about her day and about fairly nondescript things, pretty unimportant things. The guy comes back, turns out he's a doctor. He is Dr. Alec Harvey, and he's brought her tea, and then Dr. Alec Harvey's train comes, so he has to get up and go. He leaves, and then Dolly just continues rambling on, and then says that she needs to get a chocolate for her tea. It's safe to say that Laura's not listening to her, but when she gets up to get the chocolate and turns back around again, Laura's gone. Laura then comes back in, and Laura looks physically sick. She looks like she's about to collapse on the spot. As you said, the performances in this movie are amazing, but Celia Johnson, in particular, her eyes are like so
Expressive.
emotional. Her eye, expressive is the word. She puts so much of her performance into her facial expressions alone, because there's a lot of close-ups in this movie. So the women get on the train, their train then, and Laura just does not feel well. And again, there's a lot of little moments of really clever editing. And basically, Dolly is trying to be a friend because she keeps saying, like, you look unwell. Do you need me to walk you home? Do you want to rest and I'll wake you up at the stop before your stop so that you have time to get ready and stuff. And yeah, Laura's just like, in her head, obviously, oh, it's such a shame that you're so fucking annoying. And as well, the editing's clever because we could originally see the cart around her. It's clearly she's drifting off to sleep because it just becomes black around her head. And then, she has all sorts of inner thoughts in her head where, she says she wishes that she could trust Dolly and that she wasn't just a gossip who won't shut up. And, she says that she, regardless of everything else, she wants to remember what has happened in her life recently.
So the train arrives and they bid farewell, and then Laura arrives home to her husband Fred and her two kids. He says the kids have been fighting, so she goes up. Turns out it's her son's birthday tomorrow, and they're kind of fighting about what they want to do tomorrow. He wants to go to the circus, but his sister wants to go to the pantomime. So she has all this kind of kids problems to deal with. So then she's talking it over with Fred, talking about their day and talking about what are we going to do. But then she begins to cry when she hears a train outside the window go by, and she can hear the train whistling. She says she just feels faint, so Fred goes over obviously and helps his wife out. And she says she often feels faint, and he's like, no you don't. She's like, yeah I do, I definitely do, I do. But anyway, they kind of settle down a little bit. They sit down by the fire. Fred starts to do a crossword, which he's obviously a bit fond of. And she puts on a little bit of music in the background, starts to knit. And then her voiceover, which we obviously heard on the train, that kicks in again. She says that, she basically goes on about how much she loves her husband. He's the most gentle and wise person. But he's the one person in the world she can't tell about what's been going on. She says she doesn't want to hurt him. Up until a few weeks ago, she was a very happily married woman. But then she met Alec and everything changed. So she says that Miss Baggett's been going on, kind of droning on as she has a tendency to do. But anyway, Laura accidentally gets some grit in her eye and she's kind of panicking a little bit. She's trying to get it out. It's not really coming out. So Alec comes over and he says, look, I'm a doctor. Let me try and get it out for you. So he manages to get out after a little short period of time. So he gets on his train and she says that's how it began. It was just like a little small moment where you're just kind of being a kind person, helping her out. The next week, the next Thursday, because it's every Thursday, they happen to bump into each other. The next Thursday, they bump into each other again outside Boots, which is still a thing. It's
very much so.
Yeah, still a thing, so that's good. They exchange pleasantries. They're like, oh yeah, thanks for last week. Yeah, no bother, that kind of thing. She says that evening she was coming from a film and she remembers thinking that if she'd seen him there, but it was kind of only a passing thought. So it was the first moment where she caught herself thinking about him kind of when he wasn't actually present, when he wasn't actually there. Then she says, actually, to be honest, I was worried more about a birthday present for you, for her husband Fred, because his birthday was coming up soon and she didn't really know what to get him.
Yeah, and they kind of, again, exchange pleasantries and decide, well, he'll give her a hand or whatever, and then they end up, by happenstance, going out for lunch together. And it turns out that this Dr. Harvey is a pretty funny guy. Yeah. And for the first time in this movie, we see Laura smile and kind of giggling and stuff as they just slag the woman playing the cello in the place where they're having lunch. They then go to the cinema straight after, where there's going to be a movie called Flames of Passion coming out. Not a real movie.
No.
But yeah, just a nice bit of continuity that there's a trailer for this movie. Turns out they see another movie. But yeah, they then go on a stroll afterwards and she says that he was holding her arm the whole time, but she didn't even notice, and to be honest, she didn't mind. So again, very subtly, very subliminally, just organically making this affair a real thing.
I think as well,
slowly but surely.
Sorry to jump in about the cinema, but she does kind of say that she wants to pay for her own ticket, so she's kind of getting in there early.
And they have lunch and they have the tip and everything.
They split the bill, and then she's like, no, we're going to have to pay for our own tickets. He suggests they sit upstairs, which is obviously the more expensive tickets, and she's like, I can't really afford that. Turns out he does actually pay for both their tickets upstairs, even despite her protestations. But it's interesting that she is kind of almost like she's just getting in there early, being like, look, we're going to pay for our own tickets. That way there's no like confusion between any of us.
Yeah, and their conversation is essentially then just she's talking about her marriage, but she doesn't really have much else to contribute to the conversation. He starts talking about his passion, because he's a doctor, and that's preventative medicine, and that he feels that every doctor should have a sense of vocation to their job in order to be the best doctor that they can be. And she just basically, again with her eyes and the close-up, we basically watch him talking about his passion, and she just says that all of a sudden he looks so much younger, like a child, and there's a smile that comes across her face, and you can just tell that when she's watching him talking about his passion and everything, that she is slowly but surely falling in love with this man. And then his train comes and he basically begs her to see him again the following Thursday. She tries to fob him off, but doesn't try very hard, because as soon as he then stands up to go to his train, she's like, oh, okay, I'll see you next Thursday. And they basically agree to do a rehash of their previous date, which is obviously the Boots, and then the lunch, and then the cinema. So she gets home and she discovers that her son Bobby has been hit by a car and has a concussion, and Fred has been there tending to the kids all day, and there's a doctor upstairs. And again, one thing, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but one thing that this film does really well is because she's the narrator, and because she's the sole focus of the film, you're inclined, even though it's an affair, to root for Laura.
Yeah, 100%.
But the film does a good job of making it out that although Fred has his shortcomings as a husband, he's not a good listener, is the big thing. he also has little moments to begin with, but towards the end, bigger moments where they really make you. David Lean and co do a really good job of making you second guess all of your feelings towards the movie, because straight away he's like, "Oh, like don't worry about it. Like I couldn't reach you, but like it's fine. It's nothing serious. It's gonna go away. There's a doctor up there. The doctor says he'll be fine. Like we've been looking after him. He'll be grand. Don't worry. Like don't overthink it." And she goes up to her son. She says that this whole event with Bobby is some sort of sinister
payback, kind of.
Some sort of sinister reaction to what she had been up to all day, basically. A punishment, if you will. And again, yeah, because he's doing that damn crossword, she says earlier she realized that Alec would not be going home to tell his wife about what he got up to that day.
She says
she kind of takes the same vow, but then it overcomes her when she's after the whole Bobby thing, and she confesses to her husband that she went out for dinner with a stranger, a doctor, and he was a really nice guy, and she wants him to come over for dinner. And Alec's like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, cool, all right."
Yeah, no, I love how she
like, like, I want him to come to dinner, and he's like, "You want who to come to dinner? Sorry."
You're right. He's not a great listener, but I love how she kind of plants that information about Alex. So she's walking in the door before she finds out about her son kind of having an accident, and she says, I did wonder whether he'd go home and tell his wife about this new kind of woman that he met, a new friend." And then she says, "Then I knew straight away he wasn't going to say a word, and neither was I." So it's like they have this like unspoken thing where it's like they obviously aren't going to tell. But then, like you say, she does get overcome with kind of, not if not guilt, then certainly she just can't hold it in any longer. But she does kind of present the information innocently. She doesn't reveal that she has feelings for this guy. She just says, "Oh yeah, I met this nice guy. We had lunch, whatever. Maybe this can be kind of a new couple that we become friends with almost."
Yeah. So she starts laughing hysterically then, and she goes off on this tangent then by herself in the sitting room about how she thought she was making mountains out of molehills. And again, this hysterical laughing of hers is like two things. It's one, her again trying to downplay the fact that she just told her husband that she was out for lunch with a guy, and she's trying to play it off as if it's nothing. But also, you can tell that her hysterically laughing and borderline crying is because this is the moment she talked about when she realized that she wasn't happy in her marriage, because she given the information that she feeds the audience to begin with, again, what's the expression that you learn in secondary school? The like untrustworthy narrator. Great Gatsby. I can't remember what the expression is from.
Unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator. That's the one. Given the information she's feeding us at this point, not to say that she's like the villain of the piece or anything, but given the information she's feeding us, you would assume her realizing she's unhappy in her marriage would be something bigger than he just wasn't listening to her during the crossword. But again, just because of how complex this movie is, you kind of still just buy what she's saying. Yeah. You kind of allow her and Alec to take you for the ride still. And she goes ahead the following Thursday and redoes the date by herself because Alec didn't show up. She goes to Boots. She goes to lunch, and she said all of a sudden the woman playing the cello wasn't very funny anymore. She goes to the cinema, and she leaves halfway through the movie because she didn't like the movie. And she goes to the station where again she walks in on the conductor and Mrs. Baggett, and the conductor asks her out on a date and asks her for a kiss, and again just bursts out into a huge argument in the tea room between the two. And then when she looks down and defeated, she goes out of the tea room, and who's that emerging from the shadows running towards her? None other than Dr. Harvey, who got held up in work.
He says that he got held up in work. He is very apologetic, and he says just in time because his train is about to leave. So he says, "Can we meet again next Thursday?" So of course they agree. He gets on his train. She has to hike out right back to her train because that's about to leave as well. So they go to the pictures then the next week. They go to that film Flames of Passion, which she says was terrible. They actually left before the end.
As well as Donald Duck, by the way. That old guy. Love Donald Duck getting a shout out.
So
First time on the podcast for Donald Duck, I believe.
yeah, maybe we actually need to do an animated film at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself as well.
We need to do an animated film. Anyway, stay tuned for that. But yeah, she says they left before the end, as if they committed a crime. So they go to the botanical gardens instead. Obviously, quite a romantic setting. She says they enjoy every minute. They rent a boat. And they go out on the lake and they just start rowing on the lake. She says that she felt guilty about kind of feeling so intensely for basically a stranger, someone she's only known a few weeks. He eventually crashes the boat, and there's a funny scene of him getting out of the boat, and as he's trying to like pull the boat, he's kind of slipping and he's falling, and it's kind of a comical scene. Like you said, there's not many moments of levity, especially between these two characters. But this might be maybe the only one, to be honest.
Yeah.
He
slips and falls into this big river.
Yeah.
And again, it's a bit of a fake out because he slips and falls, and it's like, oh my god, and it's like shin height.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like it's such a shallow river that he falls into.
Yeah. So they go to like a nearby cabin to kind of cool off and dry off, whatever. And then they have that moment where he says, "You know what's happened, don't you? I fall in love with you."
Yeah.
So what a line, incredible line. He delivers this so well as well, Trevor Howard. Because it's almost like he doesn't want to say it, but it's like he has to say it. Like it's something inside him. And then she obviously says, "Yeah, look, I know, I feel the same way, but we have to ignore it." And
she said, "There's still time for us to forget what you just said."
Yeah.
And she then starts weeping, and he says, "There is no time."
Yeah. So
they in love.
Yeah. So they go back to the train platform. His train arrives first, as it always does. Then they share their first kiss.
Yep. Like two knacker teenagers at the train station, snogging in front of the. Well, no, she says herself. She's like, "I don't want to do it in front of anyone," but lo and behold, they do it in front of someone in the tunnel. God love whoever that was. And they kiss at the train station, and then we kind of fade again. Just another good bit of editing. They fade. It's like the tunnel, and then they fade into present day. But first, we see her sat in the armchair daydreaming from when she just came home. And then we see the rest of the picture, and Fred is just staring at her. Basically, he's looking away from his crossword, and he's convinced that she doesn't look well, but she's talking away in her head about how on the train ride home she was like a romantic schoolgirl. And then probably my favorite bit of editing is she looks out the window of the train, and on the reflection of the window of the train is essentially her and Alec
she has like
at
dreams,
their wedding dance, dancing along the windowsill. It's really, really well done. And then she basically, because as I said, when she first met Alec, all she had to talk to him about was her marriage and her kids. Whereas now she's going off on all these stories about how she wants to travel the world and she wants to go to all the places that she didn't get to go to when she married Fred. Again, not to say that it's Fred's fault, but she basically says that she wants to live the life that she couldn't live, and that she's like a romantic idiot or a romantic schoolgirl after they confess their love for each other. And when she gets home, she then lies to Fred full blown to his face for the first time. It's the first like full on blatant lie. And she says that she spent the day with her friend Mary Norton. And again, Fred's just like, "Oh, right, okay." But again, 1940, so it's like, "Oh, right, okay. Go make me dinner, woman." It's like, what? It was a bit jarring. I won't lie. You kind of forget sometimes that you're watching an older movie.
Yeah, that's
it. She rings Mary then, and again lies to her friend Mary Norton, who she supposedly hasn't seen in ages.
That's the thing.
Asks Mary to help her come up with an alibi.
Which is interesting because like she's kind of like not digging her own grave, but it's almost like she wants to be caught at this moment. It's like she rings this person who she hasn't spoken to in a long time, it would seem. And maybe Fred doesn't even know this person that well, so it's like, what are the chances that he will bump into her and they will get to talking? So it's almost like she's involving someone else in this affair. It is kind of almost like she just wants it on some level to be out in the open. She just wants it to kind of come out.
Yeah, no, it's almost like a childlike mistake, exactly, almost, that she's gone around spinning an even bigger web of lies, basically. But yeah, in her head again, she talks about how miserable she was then from that Thursday to the following, and she just waited to see Dr. Harvey again. And on their next date, they actually bump into none other than Mary Norton. And after a couple of pleasantries, she basically fobs Mary off whenever Mary spots Harvey with her. And the two go to this bridge, and they just share a bit of a somber moment where Alec asks her if she really is equally in love with him as he is with her, and she says yes. And yeah, they kiss again on the bridge.
Yeah.
Another kiss.
He says that he's going to miss his train. He actually says that he's going to a guy called Stephen. He has a friend called Stephen. He says, I'm going to go to Stephen's apartment. I'm going to miss my train. So yeah, they kiss. And then at the station, the waitress, whose name I have forgotten again, I apologise, she starts to kind of get accosted by these two, I don't even, they're some kind of workers, maybe they're like rail workers or something
I
like that.
was under the impression that they were soldiers.
Soldiers, okay, so she starts to get accosted by these two soldiers. They start making obviously vulgar remarks about her. And
Miss Baggett, this is.
Miss Baggett, yeah. And then
They insult the woman for her sandwiches. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, exactly. This like they just started to act really vulgar and whatever. Mr. Godby comes in though. The guy she's been kind of having this flirtatious.
The conductor.
Yeah, these flirtatious exchanges with, and good for him. He stands up for her. He tells them to sling their hook, and then.
And can I just take a moment to say that the performance of Miss Baggett, by Joyce Carey, right? Not to harp on, not to beat a dead horse, but this is how you play the crazy old
Una
lady.
O'Connor,
this is how you do it. Yeah. Fuck you, Una O'Connor. No, I'm joking. No, but this is how you play that role.
Yeah.
Like, I'd just to add context, we don't hate screaming old ladies. That's not a thing that we hate.
Especially
There's
Irish.
a way of doing the crazy senile old lady who is like uppity about everything. There's a way of playing that character well and funny and with a bit of gusto. And I think this is exactly how you play that type of character.
Also, Una O'Connor is Irish, so like we're not like trying to.
We should be cheering for her.
Yeah, like good for her. She had a great career. She had like lots of credits to her name. Fair play to her.
Yes,
it's just two performances, I guess, that we just kind of struck up against. But yeah,
so far,
yeah. She goes anyway. Coming back to Laura, she's at the train station. She's waiting on her train. She doesn't want to go to Stephen's flat. She's refused Dr. Harry's offer. Then she changed her mind. She runs to the flat. She gets to the flat and it's been raining outside, so she's kind of wet. She kind of has to kind of dry off. So they make some small talk, but it's obvious what they both want to happen.
Yes.
Eventually they kiss, but just at the wrong moment they hear someone about to come up the stairs and about to come in. Mm-hmm. So she hikes it. She leaves out the back door, down the escape, and Stephen comes in, the owner of the flat. He starts to talk to Alec, and then he finds a scarf that Laura has left behind, and he starts to act really pompous and really like just want to punch this guy in the face. Like, fair play.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not angry with you, Alec. I'm just disappointed.
Like, fair enough. He knows his friend is married.
It's the way he's talking down to him as well.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it's almost like he's happy he can hold this
I take it
now.
by the shuffling that I heard as I came up the stairs that you're he doesn't say lady of the night, but he implies lady of the night snuck out the back stairs, did she?
He actually calls, because Alec's a doctor, obviously, he actually pretends that it's a patient.
He says, it's clearly a patient with a very personal issue, is it?
Yeah, it's just he lords it over him, like, yeah, fair enough, you've caught him having an affair, so listen, you can...
The one thing I'll say is, though, the one bit where I was like, fair enough, Stephen, is because the way he's talking to Alec and the way he's talking about Laura pisses Alec off, and he goes to storm out, and just before he does, he's like, no. I'm gonna need the spare key back, by the way.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
fair.
yeah, no, fair enough.
That's yeah, okay.
It's like, yeah, cough it up, actually.
Yeah, I can't blame him for that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Alec leaves and Laura has been running in the pouring rain for quite a while. She says she's just
Yeah,
ran
it's
and ran.
it's basically serves as like a walk of shame
Yeah,
scene for her, where she's meant to like reflect on everything, and yeah, her in her head, she's basically talking about how unbelievably ashamed and miserable she is.
Yeah, so she
Brief
phones
encounter.
Fred, and she's trying to come up with this lie on the spot. So she says that she's with Miss Lewis, who's someone they both know since since I think it's her whoever she is. Basically, they both know someone called Miss Lewis, and she makes up this lie that Miss Lewis's mother is ill, so she's been kind of helping her with that, just to kind of give him an excuse as to why she didn't get on the train and why she'd be home late and stuff, obviously. So she goes for a long walk to clear her head. She goes to the park and she starts to sit on this park bench. This policeman kind of sidles over because
she was smoking a cigarette.
I think it's
woman.
I think it's also
Again, it's the 1940s.
well, yeah, but I think it's also kind of like he was kind of checking to see if she's okay, because it's
Yeah, of course.
it
Yeah,
has been raining and it's like she does look kind of depressed, and she looks.
yeah. He does say that if she stays outside any longer, she'll catch a cold.
So, in fairness, I think he's kind of trying to help her a little bit. But yeah, it's a bit weird how he just kind of sidles over. Anyway, she's like,
Yeah, and she says, "Oh well," in her head, she's like, "Yeah, well, I know that men don't approve of women smoking cigarettes in public."
yeah. So eventually,
1940s.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, look, I'm getting on a train soon anyway. So he's like, okay, fair enough. So she gets to the station 15 minutes before the last train is due to leave her train. So she gets there. She starts to ask for a pen and a piece of paper.
And a brandy.
And she starts to hold her head in her hands. So I think she's looking to leave some kind of message for Alec, because chances are Alec will show up here looking for her. So she's hoping that she'll be gone before he can be there. So at least this message will be there for him. But Alec arrives just then before she writes anything down. He says, "Look, I've been looking for you everywhere." And she says that she kind of begs him to leave, to be honest. She's ashamed. She's obviously like that. This is kind of the last straw for her. Kind of
and he says, like, could you really forget me? Like, could you really just say goodbye to me right now and never see me again and forget me? And she says, yes, if you help me.
Yeah. And he says,
she wants rid of him from her life at this moment in time.
Yeah, and he says, okay, look, it's over, but not quite yet. He says, the hurt we could cause is too high a price to pay for happiness. But he says, just meet with me one last time next Friday, and we can just kind of... He says, look, I'm going away.
The whole thing.
Yeah, because he's going to... Well, he has a job offer from Africa, it turns out.
Johannesburg.
So he's been kind of mulling it over between himself. He didn't think he was going to take it. He actually was going to refuse it, to be honest, because he met Laura. But then it's like, look, this isn't going to work out. It's going to hurt
he says
too many people.
The job offer in South Africa is the only way of them getting out of this affair scot-free, basically.
Yeah, exactly. He says, look, I have to take it now. I was kind of mulling over when I know I have to take it. So her train arrives. She pops her head out the window. And she says, I'll forgive you if you forgive me. So they kind of... They do agree to meet one last time next Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, and the train leaves with her on it, and again, back to present day Laura. And she basically starts discussing the present day was their last day. So this is obviously their final Thursday together. So we go back to the start of that day, and vibes are different this time. They go for a drive, and she says they don't really talk much. They go to that bridge where they share their second kiss, and they again just struggle to get the words out. They go back to the train station, and they actually walk arm in arm into the tea room, so a bit more public of them, but again they just struggle to get the words out again. And this is where the music is at its best as well. We haven't really commented on the music, but this is one of the two scenes for me where the music is just beautiful. This is probably my favorite though. And they finally sit down in the tea room, and again, just so brief encounter of this movie. He's basically like, I love you more than anything, and she's like, she literally says like, I want to die. I actually want to die right now. And he's like, well, we still have a couple of minutes left. And then the beautiful score comes to a screeching motherfucking halt because Dolly sits down with them and starts rambling about her fucking shopping and about how she's hungry and thirsty and, hey, you, get me a tea or whatever. Just totally shits on their final moment together. And Laura herself says it. She was like, it's so cruel of fate to be against us right up until the last minute.
Yeah.
And yeah, he goes out to his train, and as Dolly's rambling on, again, the editing where just the whole background around Laura turns to black as we're in her head again. And she basically just says that she just sat there listening to the train and she heard it leave and she hoped that he wouldn't be courageous and that he would come back into the tea room and just see her one last time. But he doesn't come. And then she hears another train coming. And as your one, Dolly goes up to get her chocolate, she runs out the front door, and in an incredible, like, it starts off as like a close-up, and then it like pushes in and zooms in into a Dutch angle of her face, getting her amazing facial reactions. She gets up, she darts out the door of the tea room, and she tries to throw herself in front of the train, and she stops herself at the last second. And if this wasn't brief encounter enough for you, she says, I wish that it was my kids or my husband that stopped me from throwing myself in front of the train, but it was because I wasn't courageous enough to do it. Holy fucking shit, brief encounter. How brief encounter do you need to be? Like, stop beating up my emotions. Like, I feel like I was just getting assaulted by this movie at this point.
The last 5 or 10 minutes.
It's so intense.
It's such an assault on every sense. Like, it really is. It's pulling the heartstrings. Talk about pulling the heartstrings. Yeah, she said she wasn't brave enough.
Yeah, pulling on them and then fucking ripping them and then stomping on them and then ask them to bite the curb.
Yeah, so she kind of stumbles back inside. We've seen this already, but now it's like, right.
This was the opening scene.
Yeah, like we've spent like 90 minutes, a little less than 90 minutes in her presence now. We know her. We feel like we know her intimately because we do know her intimately. Because we've heard her talk for 90 minutes nonstop about what this relationship has meant to her.
Yeah.
So she then comes back to reality and...
fuck me.
Yeah, so... Fred then starts to acknowledge her dream, and he's like, it wasn't a happy dream, was it? And then he says, thank you for coming back to me.
Oh my God.
What a fun
Oh my fuck it. Yeah. Oh my, and then she just starts crying and it ends. Basically, again, I actually wholeheartedly have loved this ending. I think it's one of the best endings to a movie ever as far as like just dialogue goes. Because basically... Right at the depth, right in Fergie time, David Lean goes, listen, if you for a second think that she is justified in cheating on her husband, I'm about to make him the nicest fucking guy in the world and the most compassionate man ever, just to really fuck with you. Because he just as you said, he says, I don't know what you were dreaming about, but it clearly wasn't a very happy one. And then he says, please tell me, is there anything I can do to help? And she's not listening to him, basically. She's staring off into the distance. And then, as you said, he just says, thank you for coming back to me.
So he kind of has put 2 and 2 together and
he's put 2 and 2 together. But also, again, for the audience, it's just like, Fred, not only is Fred not a bad guy, he's actually he actually clearly is a good guy. And it was just the way that Laura, our narrator, fed us the information. It was to lead us to believe, but basically the audience is made to feel just as guilty for buying into this affair as Laura and Alec themselves, because Fred's a good guy.
I never really doubt
fucking
that.
hell,
like,
David Lean.
He is kind of not the most observant of husbands. Like he's kind of
but we only get him in like 3 pockets in between her affair where she is the narrator. Therefore,
it's all from her point of view, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Therefore, what's to say that this guy actually is a bad husband, except for when he is doing the crossword? In which case, Fred, maybe listen up a bit. Brief encounter. I gave it 5 stars the first time I saw it. I gave it 5 stars the second time I saw it. Yeah, this movie is, as I said, literally one of my favorite movies ever. Don't look into that too much. I'm doing okay, guys. But I love this movie. Just from a thing about movies that makes movies special is movies that make you feel something.
Yeah, of course.
Whether it's like unrivaled happiness or a sense of joy or a sense of pride or I don't know, like a sense of like it's worth investing into a movie, like a long movie or something that pays off, or a movie that, as I said, takes your heartstrings and asks them to bite the curb. Because yeah, this movie is very bleak and very sad and very earned. Everything is organic in this movie. Everything is done well, and everything feels incredibly human and incredibly, I don't want to say close to home, but like it could happen to anyone you know.
100%.
And it's done so in a way where, yeah, I just think this movie is legitimately one of the greatest romance movies ever made. One of the best movies of the 1940s for me, and probably one of the best movies we will ever cover on the podcast, in my opinion. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I was absolutely mesmerized, blown away by it. Like you said, I was like, it takes its time. Like it doesn't jump into them going from 0 to 60 straight away. It really does plant enough seeds where they get to know each other little by little, and they can see through both of the performances that they are kind of starting to grow closer and closer. So really, even though it's actually kind of a short film and it's a brief encounter in more ways than one, like it really does take its time. But then when the actual kind of moment where they, like that scene in the cabin where, oh, that just blew me away. That just absolutely floored me. Like it's, talk about a gut punch. The whole film is a gut punch, especially the last 10 minutes, but that scene as well, where it's like, because it's taken its time and because it's really earned that moment, yeah, it's sensational. Amazing movie.
And yeah, we'll talk about what we are going to talk about next week in just a second. But in the meantime, Shane, have you watched anything recently?
I have, yeah. I've managed to get a few stuff watched, thankfully. So the first one I want to mention is Father Brown, which is it's kind of like it's a character that's been adopted a few times. This is Alec Guinness playing a guy called Father Brown, a priest who is he's kind of like an amateur kind of problem solver, like an amateur kind of, what would you call him?
He's a priest, isn't he?
He's a priest, but he's like an amateur kind of detective almost. So he gets embroiled in this kind of there's like a priceless art kind of thing going on where someone's been stealing priceless art, and he kind of gets involved because he wants to try and stop this guy. But it's kind of a battle of wits, but like in a comedic sense. So
he's an Agatha Christie character. So
is he? Okay, I actually didn't know that.
As far as I'm aware, he is. Yeah.
Right. So look, I usually love Agatha Christie. There are moments where I really like this, and there are moments where it doesn't quite live up to its potential. So anyway, that's one where I kind of enjoyed it to a point, but it's fine. I did see The Brutalist, which I really liked. I didn't love, to be honest, but
I still haven't seen it yet.
I didn't love. To be honest, I did feel the time. Especially in the second half. But no, I really liked it. It's very ambitious. It's quite it's quite self-indulgent, I would say, like in more ways than one, not just because of the time. But I mean, it's absolutely immaculately made. Like he directs the shit out of this thing, Brady Corbet. It looks unbelievable. There's one scene where they go to Italy, and I'm not going to say what happens in Italy, but there's a moment which is just breathtaking. Like it's shot so beautifully.
I just need to. Father Brown isn't an Agatha Christie character.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
It's just his show. His show always comes on in between Miss Marple and Poirot, so I always assumed the three were all Agatha Christie, but no, he's not. My apologies.
It feels like he might be, which I can see where you were coming from.
Yeah.
I did see Companion, which is another new release with Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. It's kind of an interesting.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's his whole persona is like the nice guy, so he really like manages to use that persona in very interesting ways in this film. So yeah, it's kind of like a futuristic comedy horror. I won't say too much again about what happens, but yeah, check it out. It's a fun film, fun light-hearted film. The Big He from Fritz Lang. I have been wanting to get into more Fritz Lang films. To be honest, I liked it. I didn't love it again. I don't know why. It didn't really click with me the way I expected it to. I really don't know why. I expected it to like be one of my favorite noirs off the bat instantly. For some reason, I liked it. Like I said, I did like it, but didn't really 100% click with me. A letter to three wives from Joseph L. Mankiewicz, another director I've been wanting to get into more of his work. So this is actually really interesting. So three women get a letter from their mutual friend who says, guess what, ladies, I have ran off with one of your husbands. So it's addressed to all three of them. And they each have to then kind of work out which husband it is. So we then get a segment from each of them where we kind of see into their marriage, kind of like a day in the life of their marriage, or kind of a week in the life of, maybe, where it's like you really kind of get a detailed look at their marriage. And then it's kind of like a mystery where you're trying to figure out which one it is. But it's also like a domestic kind of comedy drama where you're getting these women kind of in their, they're kind of trodden upon. They're trying to obviously be assertive, but they're obviously at the time period are in their 40s, so they're not exactly always able to be. Again, I think the premise is really fun. I think the premise is very interesting. It doesn't quite live up maybe to what I hoped it would be, but it's still worth a watch. The Hustler is...
I fucking love The Hustler.
The Hustler is amazing.
I fucking love that movie.
I had seen The Colour of Money, which I knew was a sequel to The Hustler. For some reason, I'd never seen The Hustler, so I was like, I better check that out. I better get on that, correct that mistake. And yeah, what a film. Paul Newman is just absolutely magnetic in that role. He's just... I can't imagine anyone else.
He is just the guy.
Fast Eddie Felsen. One of my favourite characters, like, in any sports movie. Like, all sports movies, my favourite sports movies all kind of share the same thing, where it's like, they're not really about the sport that they cover. They're character dramas, and then it's like the sport. So the sport's kind of like an extension of who they are then. It's not trying to be about pool. It's a movie about Eddie, and he happens to play pool. So, but no, he's just magnetic. I mean, I really, like I said, can't imagine anyone else in that role. Decision to Leave from Park Chan-wook is...
Oh, another fucking class movie.
Unbelievable movie. Oh, like... Again, talk about a good... It's kind of similar to Brief Encounter in a way where it's just constantly...
Yeah, very similar.
Punching you in the gut. Oh, it's like going, like you said, 12 rounds of prime Mike Tyson. It's just punch you in the... Like, he's kind of a terrible detective, even though he's talked about in these circles where it's like, oh, what a great detective, he can solve any crime. He's actually not. Like, at least the cases that he works on in this film, well, the main case that he works on in this film, where he does a pretty terrible job. But I mean, the Central Romance is so... it's intoxicating, actually. That's probably the word I would say. Amazing movie. Check out Decision to Leave. The Killers, which is another noir that I've been meaning to watch for a long time, from Robert Siodmak. Burt Lancaster's first ever movie, and he's really great. But Ava Gardner steals the show. She's breathtaking, to be honest. She's so gorgeous. She's so magnetic in how she kind of, like, the way the camera looks at her. It's kind of like Rita Hayworth, the way Orson Welles would shoot Rita Hayworth, or the way Marilyn Monroe would be shot in certain films. It's like the camera would know that this is like an absolutely beautiful woman, but just the way Ava Gardner is shot, and she really lives up to it. She's not in the movie enough, but what she does, like, she is a classic femme fatale. She absolutely just kills this film. Really, really good noir, right up there on my list of really good noirs. And yeah, like I said, Burt Lancaster in his first role kills it as well. Based on I think it's an F. Scott Fitzgerald. No, is it an F. Scott Fitzgerald? I think it's an F. Scott Fitzgerald short story. I could be wrong about that, but it's it's really good. And then finally, Robert Altman, a director who I've been wanting to get into again more of. Has seen about 4 or 5 of his films before this, but this is one I've been meaning to check out for a long time. And this is like one of my favourite films about Hollywood ever. It's very, very referential. So it references Sunset Boulevard a number of times. One of the characters actually calls himself Joe Gillis. So it's like, it's not trying to hide away from the fact that it's obviously borrowing from these other classic movies that are about Hollywood. So essentially this guy, the film starts off with this like tracking shot. There's a review on Letterboxd which is like nothing more meta than there's a character who talks about tracking shots, And then as in this scene where he talks about tracking shots, it's just a 6 minute tracking shot. It's very, very meta. So it's a lot of characters talk about old Hollywood. There's like posters and clips of movies from old Hollywood. Like it clearly just wants to evoke old Hollywood throughout this film. Basically, this like kind of relatively high powered studio executive, played by Tim Robbins, starts to get these postcards, where from a writer who he had a meeting with some time ago, and he kind of fobbed them off, and he said he'd get back to them with whether he's going to go ahead with their idea, and he never did. So this writer, after being fobbed off and ignored for a long time, starts to send him these progressively threatening postcards, and he starts to get kind of antsy and worried, and is someone actually going to try and attack me or do some harm to me? So you have that kind of whole mystery going on, and it's also like just an absolute rollicking comedy about just how bullshit Hollywood can be sometimes. You can tell Robert Altman really just wanted to get some shit off his chest in this film.
Yeah.
There's two characters played by Dean Stockwell and Richard E. Grant. Richard E. Grant is fucking hilarious in this movie. They play these two writers who they're writing this script, and the script idea that they have, they pitch it to Tim Robbins' character, and it sounds genuinely fantastic. Like I would watch this film. It sounds like, oh, these guys actually are really onto something here. They don't want movie stars. They just want this is real. They have something to say with this movie. And then I'm not gonna spoil it, but how this storyline is paid off, I was wetting myself laughing. It's so good. One of my favorite films about Hollywood. Like I said, it's a great movie, The Player. So yeah, kind of managed to get quite a few films watched. So check out most of those, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I have essentially just been working my way through a lot of the movies that I got on 4K and Blu-ray that you may have seen in my last video on the channel. So I started working my way through the Battles Without Honor and Humanity franchise, directed by Kinji Fukasaku, who directed Battle Royale, which I'm sure most of you have seen. So yeah, the first one is fantastic. They're basically these like ultra realistic, rather violent, not as violent as you'd think, even though like Tarantino says they're a big inspiration to him. They're not as violent as you'd think. Yakuza films from the early 70s. So yeah, the first one is absolutely fantastic. It's worth noting that Bunta Sugawara, who plays Hirono, who's sort of the main character throughout this, is really good. And as well, the guy who plays Yamamori, who in this film is like the Yakuza godfather who he looks up to, is so good as well, because it's just an interesting route that the franchise takes, where you think that this guy is going to be like his ultimate mentor, and it turns out that Yamamori is just a fucking pussy. He's just a loser who just hides, and he like it'll be like, oh, so there's a hit out for you, boss. What are we gonna do? And Yamamori would just like burst out crying and like run into the sitting room and hide, and they all just kind of have to look at each other and like, what the fuck do we do? It's yeah, like it's, even though the films are like documentary, like an ultra serious, it's so funny that they just decided to make Yamamori just basically the biggest loser ever. Because then yeah, in the second one, then we've some people call it Deadly Fight in Hiroshima, some people call it Hiroshima Deathmatch. Those two are by far, from what I've seen, the two best in the franchise. Hiroshima Deathmatch, basically, it's all the same characters from the first one, but it follows a totally new character who is basically a total nothing. He is a homeless guy who has just been let out of prison. He doesn't get on with anyone. No one likes him. No one wants to be near him. He can't get a job because he just keeps getting into arguments with people. And he basically slowly but surely works his way up the Yakuza rankings. But just because he's a bit of an inherent fuck up, it takes a turn for the worse, shall we say. And yeah, it's basically about the rise and fall of a very interesting, complex, ultimately just a goon. He's just a henchman. He never really reaches any particularly high heights. So it's interesting that Fukusaki decided to just basically make a total sub-sequel about just one of the henchmen. It's a really interesting way of doing things. Then you've got Proxy War, which is the third film. This is where the series gets tired and just starts... It just basically feels like where the first one is like a really interesting story about Hirono and his friends and how they all rise up the Yakuza ranks and how they all get into levels of power. And then the second one really interesting. Just follows a henchman basically. This one is basically just a bunch of people arguing in a room, and then the fourth one, Police Tactics, is basically a bunch of people arguing in rooms, but then the police raid them every once in a while. That movie is actually not very good. So you start off with two incredible films, genuinely incredible, and then the next two were kind of lackluster. I still haven't seen the final one. There's 5 in total. And yeah, after those last two, I've not been in a rush to watch the last one, but not to spoil anything, but I have high hopes that Hirono finally just manages to fucking get a gun and just shoot Yamamori in this 5th film, because yeah, if he doesn't, I don't know, Yamamori has it coming to him, goddammit. But yeah, besides that, I watched another El Santo film. I watched El Santo's first movie, El Santo versus Evil Brain, which is essentially, it plays out like a 90-minute kids cartoon, but in live action. A girl gets taken hostage. Santo has to save her, but at first he gets brainwashed into becoming one of the bad guys' henchmen until another luchador injects him with some serum that brings him back to normal, and then Santo and the other luchador go and fight the bad guys. But that being said, it's a fun movie, and weirdly, it is the last. Well, it is one of the two, because the other El Santo movie that they shot at the same time, they are the last 2 movies made in Cuba before Fidel Castro took over. So it's such an interesting time capsule of what Cuba used to look like. It basically looks like an extension. It basically looks like if like Americans lived in Tenerife. It's like all the like Tenerife style buildings and tall structures, but they're all driving Cadillacs. It's interesting. But yeah, it's such a weird time capsule of a movie. And then, yeah, I don't think I've said it on the podcast yet, but in July of this year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, doing it for charity. Thank you very much. I'm doing it for charity. I have actually never been to Africa before, so just because, you know, other than actual training, obviously, because I like to watch a lot of movies, I thought I'd set another challenge for myself, and basically, I don't know how feasible this is, but I'm going to try and watch a movie either about, set in, or made in each African country. I've got 2 down. The first one was Casablanca, which we covered on the podcast not long ago. And second is Blood Diamond. So I've got Morocco and I've got Sierra Leone ticked off. And yeah, I wish I could just pronounce his name with gusto, but is it Jimin or Jaimin?
I think it's Jaimin Hunsu, yeah.
Yeah, Jaimin Hunsu. It's so cool to see that guy get like a prominent role, because he's in everything.
Yeah.
And he's often either a background character or like the friend of the main character.
He's so good.
To see him in a leading role is so great, because fuck is he good in
I
this
first
movie.
saw him.
It's such a gritty movie, and he's so emotional in this movie. Like what his character goes through and what his character's family go through, which is a very real thing that people go through still to this day in Africa, let alone in the 90s. His portrayal of Solomon is unreal. Yeah, I know on TikTok everybody's currently making edits about Leo DiCaprio saying that he's from Rhodesia. Let's not beat around the bush. Jaimin Hunsu is the star of this movie. He is so good in this movie. And yeah, it plays out like a bit of an epic movie. Like it is a fantastic film. One of them ones I always thought, I hadn't seen it before, I always thought this was going to be like mid-level DiCaprio, because DiCaprio admittedly has a phenomenal filmography.
I think he was Oscar nominated for this movie. I think he was.
I'm not sure if he was, but I always thought this was going to be like a The Beach level DiCaprio film, like one of his mid-level films. But no, this is well up there. This is a phenomenal film. Blood Diamond, couldn't recommend it enough. If you're from Ireland, it's on Netflix. So yeah, absolutely worth a watch. But yeah, stay tuned on the podcast for me talking about more movies from different African countries. I'm currently in a heated inner turmoil because for Uganda, I have two very different options. I could either watch The Last King of Scotland, which I've never seen.
That's very good.
Or I could watch Who Killed Captain Alex, that 60-minute action movie from Uganda, which is supposedly like the worst action movie ever made. So it's a real inner turmoil as to which movie I should watch, because if I want to get the authentic experience, surely I watch the actual Ugandan movie. But I don't know. Maybe I watch both. Who knows?
I would go.
And yeah, I might make a YouTube video about them all if I do.
Last Game of Scotland is very good. Forrest Whitaker actually won an Oscar for that.
Yeah.
I'm 99% sure I'm telling the truth there.
Yeah, I think he did too.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think DiCaprio was nominated, by the way, for Blood Diamond. And just touching very briefly on John Hunsu, like you said, he's been in loads of stuff. I actually saw him for the very first time in a film called Never Back Down. Have you seen that? It's like an MMA movie.
Yeah, it's the MMA movie. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but a lot of people recommended it.
It's pretty good. Like, it's pretty good for that kind of movie. But John Hunsu was in it, and he fucking kills that movie. I was like, when I first saw that, I was like, this guy is fucking good. So when I watched Blood Diamond, I actually watched it after I had seen that film. And it's like, oh yes, this guy, yes. And then it's just so cool when you see an actor like that, and then they just start popping up in everything.
Yeah, so, they're in like Gladiator and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. Like, they're in like the biggest movies of each year. It's like, yes.
Oh, he's so good in Gladiator. Actually, he's so good in Gladiator.
Yeah, he's fantastic in Gladiator. But as I said, he's Russell Crowe's friend in the movie. You know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just class to see him in a leading role because he's absolutely unbelievable in that movie. But yeah, as far as the podcast goes, we got one more film in Romance at the Movies to talk about. A movie I've never seen before. Shane, what's that?
So next week we are covering Ball of Fire. Definitely a change of pace compared to the relentless gut punches that we have been covering on the podcast so far this month. So Casablanca into Roman Holiday into Brief Encounter. Three there's definitely moments of levity in all those films, but I mean, I think maybe three films in which maybe not the happiest of endings, shall we say. So
no, we really didn't pick any happy endings in this romantic month, have we?
So who knows, maybe next week maybe it might be a nice little way to finish off Romance at the Movies in a way that might be a little bit more appropriate, shall we say.
Yeah, we probably should have thought that through, to be honest, instead of picking three movies with fucking devastating endings. But what can you say? It's Golden Hour Film Podcast. And yeah, Ball of Fire. Really underratedly stacked cast. We'll talk about that next week. Killer, yeah. What a cast. Like, it's a joke how good that cast is. Anyway, yes, as you said, next week, Ball of Fire. In the meantime, this was Brief Encounter, and we'll see you all next week. I've been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Maloney.
And thank you very much. Goodbye.